Lyrically, I'm untouchable, uncrushable. Running in a 600, running in a 600. Untouchable, uncrushable. Running in a 600, running in a 600.
What up, everybody? It's your boy Brandon Stubbs, and this is another episode of Punch the Face Radio. Yeah, man, let's kind of delve into it, man. You know what it is. You can call and be a part of the show at area code 929-477-3165. Going to talk about some Daniel Jacobs, or Danny Jacobs. I call him Danny Jacobs. I don't think he likes being called Danny, so I'm going to call him Danny Jacobs. Moving to Matchroom Boxing and making his HBO debut here. We'll talk about that. We'll also talk about Demetrius Andre, also now signing a multi-fight deal with HBO. We'll get into that. We'll also be joined here in about 45 minutes by James Dominguez. He's one of the hosts of the Punchline podcast, along with former middleweight champion Kelly Pavlik. So get his thoughts on what's going on in boxing and kind of give us a story in regards to how the podcast came together. And as well, we'll talk some light heavyweight division, Jorge Linares, Mikey Garcia, Miguel Cotto rumors, and a little bit more in the show. Also, feel free to tweet me if you're listening live at BrandonP2TF. And again, call into the show at area code 929-477-3165. But we'll start off the show with something that really caught a lot of us off guard last week. Back in last week, we ended up getting a very strange video message from Andre Ward put together by Jordan Brand about him retiring. He said he's accomplished all he needs to accomplish, and he's done. He also went on later on ESPN that same day with Stephen A. Smith and explained that he's done all he needed to do. You know, his age, he just felt like there was nothing else left for him to accomplish, and he feels he's stepping away at a good time. But, you know, this was just kind of came out of nowhere. Now, about 2 months ago, we had Luis Arias of Rock Nation Fighter. He was a part of Sergey Kovalev, Andre Ward Part 2 undercard, and he had stated, you know, he had met with Rock Nation Sports. They were getting some things together in regards to him returning to the ring and him possibly being on a Andre Ward undercard here later this year. He's looking at maybe, you know, back end of November, sometime in December. Well, now all goes out the window. So Andre Ward is now retired. So what does that mean for Rock Nation Sports? Is kind of where I want to go with this first, is that means Rock Nation Sports probably no more. Let's just call it what it is. It's not been the most smoothly ran promotion in boxing. And it definitely seems like they don't know what they're doing in regards to promoting boxing. We know they had some issues with Cotto and Canelo when they were co-promoting that with Golden Boy. It took a long time for Golden Boy to get their portion of the money that they kind of kept front up for the fight from Rock Nation. We know, you was speaking with Arias. Arias, he was fighting in bingo halls and not getting television time. They have other young prospects they've signed that no one has really ever seen anything of. A lot of these guys you wouldn't know they even exist unless you go to Rock Nation's website. So it's strange the way everything is now set up. With Cotto going here, Ward now retiring, there's nothing left of that boxing division that's really of marketable value because they haven't marketed these young fighters up like they should have. So that L is on them. I completely blame them for that. That's they're doing their loss. They've purged a lot of money out to a lot of people. So you got to just think maybe this is it. So maybe they just completely sell off the rest of those contracts they have or let those guys become free agents and just kind of let them do what they need to do. But I don't see Rock Nation doing much of anything. Now, they do still maybe have one dog in the fight in Guillermo Rigondeaux, who does fight here in a couple of weeks against Vasily Lomachenko, and that'll be on ESPN. But he loses that fight, you really don't have anyone of real name recognition that's a part of Rock Nation Sports. So very weird. But, Andre Ward's retirement just it caught me for a loop because, like I said, none of us saw this coming. Now, granted, I've made fun of Andre Ward in the past about retiring, but I was kind of tongue-in-cheek, but he really did it this time. So go figure. So with that being stated, We want to give a very touching tribute here to Andre Ward because he's deserved it. So, the only way we can here on Punch the Face Radio, the only way I can, is to show my gratitude to Andre Ward. Just kind of want to run down some of these accolades that Andre Ward has had throughout his career. So without further ado, here's our tribute to Andre Ward. Yes, we will, Andre Ward. We'll remember you. He's unforgettable, folks. We won't forget about Andre Ward. And no, your life has not passed by, Andre. See, Andre Ward was a professional here for over 13 years. The guy's retiring at age 33. 32 wins, 16 KOs, no losses. So that's a pretty good record, folks. But let's run down some other things that have been a part of Andre Ward's career. Let's start off with him as an amateur. The guy went 115-5 as an amateur. 115-5, that is. He's a two-time U.S. national champion, both in 01 and 03. Oh, yes, we'll remember you, Andre. He then went on to the Olympics in 2004, winning gold medal in the light heavyweight division there in those summer's games. He would then turn pro, working with Dan Goosen. And, he had a great career, 8 world titles, 2 different weight classes, that being both super middleweight and light heavyweight. Maybe the crowning achievements for Andre Ward are his Super 6 win back in 2009, where he took on the likes of Arthur Abraham. He actually didn't take on Arthur Abraham in that. He took on guys like Mikhail Kessler, Carl Froch. So, we look at those things. You look at his wins. Chad Dawson, when Chad Dawson was amongst the best fighters in the world pound for pound, came down to 168 and got tore up. Carl Froch, as I had mentioned, a unanimous decision over him in a very one-sided beating. Arthur Abraham, another guy, beat him with ease. Yes, Andre, we'll remember you. Remember you for coming of age against Anderson Miranda back in 2009, and what some call one of your toughest bouts to your young career. And you passed with flying colors, Andre. But there were also low points for Andre Ward. He had the shoulder injury, and he had the beef with Dan Goosen, which pretty much saw him out of action a bulk of 2013 and 2014, where finally he got released, really after Dan Goosen passed away, which is kind of sad. But hey, he got a lot of money with Rock Nation. And he went on to beat Sergey Kovalev twice and retire as being amongst one of the best fighters of his generation, and arguably when he retired, pound for pound number 1 on various rankings. Not my rankings, but a lot of other rankings. So, Andre Ward, we will remember you as being one of the best fighters of this generation, a highly skilled guy, and you'll be missed. As crazy as that sounds. All right, there's our musical tribute here to Andre Ward. So there you have it, folks. Andre Ward's now retired. He's done. It's a wrap. So we put on the poll here on Punch the Face Radio's poll. What do you think is the accomplishment or the biggest achievement, or what you'll remember the most about Andre Ward's retirement? Let me phrase it that way. And your voting options were the following: his 2004 gold medal, his beef with Dan Goosen, him beating Carl Froch, and him beating Sergey Kovalev twice. Now, some will say that Sergey Kovalev was really only one win, the knockout that he had here this year. But you could be pulling teeth there. Technically, he's got 2 wins over Sergey Kovalev, the way you look, regardless. So the voting went like this. 10% of the votes went for Andre Ward being a gold medalist. 17% voted him beating Carl Froch. Honest to God, I thought that was going to be the one that was going to beat out. Was going to be number 1. Number 3, with 23% of the votes, was his beef with Dan Goosen. A lot of people in boxing boxing circles really harbor a lot of ill feelings towards Andre Ward in regards to him and his beef with Dan Goossen and the way that all that kind of worked out and just kind of ended very sour. A lot of people thought Andre Ward was in the wrong with all of that. That whole thing was it was a very murky time. I honestly say I can make no heads or tails of it one way or the other with that. But I know a lot of people in boxing still harbor a lot of ill feelings and ill sentiments towards Andre Ward for the way he treated Dan Goossen. So I got 23% of the votes. But with 50% of the votes, so half the votes went to Andre Ward's biggest moment, or what a lot of people are going to remember him for, his 2 fights and his 2 wins against Sergey Kovalev. Now, Sergey Kovalev won't definitely look at it that way. Sergey Kovalev has made it abundantly clear that he thinks that Andre Ward retired to avoid a 3rd fight with him. I'm kind of wondering if Sergey Kovalev is suffering from some sort of brain damage of some sorts. It's one of the dumbest shit I've ever heard in a while. I don't think Andre Ward is scared of fighting him a 3rd time, and that's why he's retiring. He's already fought him twice. He's got 1 clean win over him, and he's got a questionable decision win, and he won another. Ward has nothing to prove there. So as much as I like Sergey Kovalev, Sergey Kovalev saying that one, I got to give him this. Yeah, there's no way Andre Ward is running scared of fighting a 3rd fight with Sergey Kovalev. Don't see that. So I don't think that's why he's retiring, but we will still see a lot of Andre Ward going forward. Obviously, he has some promotional and managerial or advisory role for Shakur Stevenson, Stevenson, the young Olympian. He's got his hands in that, and he's going to be helping him out, working alongside him and Jay Prince and Top Rank as far as molding Shakur to be one of the stars of the future here in boxing. So we're going to see from that level. We're also going to still see him on TV. His contract with HBO as a fighter is up, but obviously he's still going to be doing some work for them, commentating, and HBO's going to having a lot more on their plate and a lot more fights here come soon. So we'll talk about a little bit later in the show. So Andre Ward's not going to go anywhere. We may not see him in the ring anymore, but we'll definitely still see some of him. He'll still be around the sport of boxing as a whole. So, all in all jokes aside, thank you to Andre Ward for the 13 years of entertaining his fans, putting your body on the line, putting your health at risk to box and to entertain us. So thank you, Andre Ward. In all seriousness, thank you for that. With that being stated, like I said, we're still going to see Andre Ward because he may be commentating this guy's fight. In a move that kind of sort of threw me for a loop that I don't know how this all came about, Daniel Jacobs is now part of Matchroom Boxing. Now, I'm not really sure how that all ties in. I'm not really sure what's going to happen with all of that, but it's weird. It's weird in a good way. It's weird because, a lot of people, including myself, really worried about what was going to happen with HBO with them losing a lot of fighters. I'll close on this thought here in a second, but I see this area code. I know who this is. Hopefully they heard the tribute to Andre Ward. So with that being stated, the one and only Money Mike, what's going on, my man?
Man, that was touching, brother. I'm sad that he's retiring. I really sad that Andre Ward is retiring because I love the fact for the past 3 to 4 years on Twitter, going after all the haters. That was fun for me. You said it all. He cleaned out 168, cleaned out 170, 175 with the exception of Stevenson. I would have loved to see Andre Ward and Adonis Stevenson. That didn't happen. Hall of Fame career. He beat Chad Dawson, made him come down and weight. He beat Kovalev. You know how I feel about that. I loved it, and I love the fact that if you want to talk about who Dr. Andre Ward Award, Triple G did because he called out Carl Froch and Chavez Jr., but Andre Ward was the top dog at 168, and he ducked him because Andre Ward was going to put that hurting on that boy. But be it as it may, Andre Ward, number one pound for pound. Now that distinction goes to Terrence Crawford. That's no debating. That's no debate. And I'm glad we're going to continually see Andre Ward on TV. But that tribute was touching. I was upset when he called it quits. But you know what? He's undefeated, number one pound for pound. I remember on the 2004 last male American boxer getting the gold medal.
That is correct. So, I'm glad you brought that up. I completely forgot about that.
Last male, because I want to be clear. We all know Clarissa Shields just got 2 back-to-back. So I just want to be clear. The last male boxer to win a gold medal. Well, what more can I wish he was on the Cheerios. The Wheaties box. I wish Andre Ward. I wish fans would appreciate him more. But I'm going to miss going after the haters, to be honest with you. I'm going to miss all the Triple G fans who think he would have smoked Andre Ward. That's a joke. So that's what I'm going to miss the most, defending this guy. And my light-skinned brother from another mother, back on the Rutgers days, we always had very, great conversation about Andre Ward. We already know who we talking about. Yeah, shout out to him. Shout out to my man Ryan Bivens. Shout out to him. He's gonna be missed. I can't wait to keep seeing Andre Ward on television. But that tribute was touching, and I appreciate you for that, brother.
Now I'll ask you this, because this is the year of the retirement. And I'm also going to bring this up with my guest James Dominguez when he's a part of the show later. We've got Ward retiring, Klitschko retiring, Juan Manuel Marquez retiring. Got Floyd Mayweather. We also have Miguel Cotto, who's still going to have another fight for the years out. We'll talk about that later as well. Only so many guys can go as being first ballot. Obviously I know you're going to take Ward as number one, but who else? I think there's like 2 more who can go first ballot in their first year. Who else are slam dunks to be those other 2 guys?
All of them are slam dunks, to be honest with you. And I wish in all sports we could stop this. We have to, so many slots for 1 year. If you're you're a Hall of Famer or you're not. If you're first ballot, you're first ballot. And there's just one more thing about Andre Ward. And here's the only issue that I had, the only issue. You can't have Nick Cannon be a part of any promotion for an Andre Ward fight. And I have brought this up with you ad nauseum. We cannot have that. But going back to your question, all of them are first ballot Hall of Famers. But if I had to pick 3, you're going to have to put Floyd. You probably got to put Klitschko. And then you're going to have to put, oh, boy. Do you put Andre Ward? Because he's undefeated.
I'm thinking.
Do you put Cotto with this class, and then you wait for Andre Ward for 2023? Because you have to wait 5 years, so that'll be 2023. So you have Andre Ward headline the 2023 class. You have him headline that. If no big names, then I don't see any really big names retiring in 2018. So you have Andre Ward headline the class of 2023, and you have Floyd, Klitschko, and Cotto headline the class of 2022, and then Marquez will be a part of that 2023 class also.
But you know what's going to probably happen with that? I could see Manny Pacquiao then retiring next year. Manny Pacquiao, Marquez, and Ward, and then Manny Pacquiao gets all the glory amongst those 3. So I really hope for his sake that he's a part of the first ballot in 22. I think we're pulling teeth because regardless, he's gonna be a Hall of Famer. He's deserving it. But I really think him, Floyd, and Klitschko amongst this year's retirees should be those guys to be those first ballot Hall of Famers when that time comes.
But you gotta look. If you look at Cotto, and I know the family is the biggest Cotto fans. Look what he has done. Look what Cotto has done when Trinidad retired. He took on that mantle, and I'm gonna tell you something. Being from New York, having that fight at MSG on Puerto Rican parade weekend, That was special, brother. That was always a special time around the Garden, because and then especially with encompassing with that whole weekend. You can't minimize that. You definitely cannot minimize the reach that Miguel Cotto, and you're gonna talk about $1 million pay-per-view buys. You gotta put Cotto up there too, because this fight did about $1 million, and then Floyd just but you can't minimize what Miguel Cotto meant to boxing. So that's why I would put Cotto ahead of Ward in just that sense, because his reach was greater than Ward's, because Ward in some instances got the short end of the stick of that, especially from a promotional standpoint. And I know that, we've talked about like his faith in God and some things alienated fans, and the lack of ingratiating himself with the media and stuff like that. That kind of hurt him a little bit. He was a great boxer, no less. But we're pulling straws here. I wish all 5 of them will go together and just have a big old party at the Boxing Hall of Fame and have a dope Carter Verona, New York, surrounded that Hall of Fame class. So we're just pulling teeth there. But shout out to Punch to the Face Radio. My man Brandon Stubbs doing it every Wednesday night, man. You doing it, brother?
Oh, man, Mike, I appreciate you constantly calling through, showing love. Next week's show, we have scheduled Austin Trout. And we also have
man, let's go. That's my goal. Let's go. That's my guy.
So we got him scheduled on next week's show. We're getting some things planned for a special guest from Top Rank to talk about what Top Rank's doing the rest of this year and early part of 2018. So, man, I appreciate the support as always. One more quick thought from you before you go. The rumor is Cotto versus David Lemieux up in New York around the first or second week of December. This is supposed to be his last fight. I'm indifferent about it. I think he honestly can beat David Lemieux if he takes him to the later rounds. What do you think of this matchup as being his final bout before he calls it a career?
I agree with that, but he better put some strict stipulations on David Lemieux, because he is very notorious for missing weight. So Miguel Cotto, you got to be smart, brother, because look what he did to Curtis Stevens. Look what he did to him. We don't want Miguel Cotto. We don't want him to have that same fate happen to him. And it's December, and it's probably going to happen at Madison Square Garden. Oh, man, a big old send-off for brother Miguel Cotto. I like the fight. I wish it was for a belt of some kind. I wish that would.
Yeah. I mean, he's going to retire. I'm kind of indifferent about it now. Also rumored on the same card is Lucas Matisse versus Adrian Broner. That fight legitimately has me excited because somebody's going to get hurt. I'm looking at you, Adrian Broner. So shout out to Golden Boy for really trying to – they're trying to get things together, and I respect what they're doing. So Lucas Matisse is a name and a fighter they still have. They're giving him a really good matchup against Adrian Broner, another name, and a guy who is a capable fighter, but we know his shortcomings. Should be a hell of a fight if everything gets finalized here for December.
Last straw for Adrian Broner. I thought the Mikey Garcia fight was his last straw, but this is his last straw. This is definitely the last straw. And, I don't like to give HBO shout-outs for much, but I really do have to. They are, oh, my gosh, with Daniel Jacobs coming back and all these signings, oh, man. They're really replacing Lomachenko and Terrence Crawford very nicely. So we just love boxing, so we just gonna watch it anyway. But shout out to HBO.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm gonna definitely touch on that and give the people the details on who's signed back up here with HBO and who we'll be looking at here the coming months. But Mike, man, I appreciate you rocking with me here every week, and I had to throw that Andre Ward tribute out because that was mainly for you at the end of the day. I know you're the biggest Ward homer I know, so I had to show him love from the show just for you, man.
You know what? I appreciate you, and I got some news for you, so I'm gonna hit you behind the scenes.
All right, my man. You take it easy, and again, appreciate you always being a loyal listener and supporter here of the show, my brother.
No doubt. Punch in the Face Radio. Let's get it.
All right. Again, man, that's my man, Mike Money. He does it big, man, representing East Coast heavy, Andre Ward heavy. This is what he does. he's a big mover, a big shaker. We appreciate everything Mike Money here does for the sport of boxing and for the show. So much love to him. Now, like you said, man, we got to give credit and show some love to HBO. A couple of different reasons. One, like I said, man, Daniel Jacobs signs with Matchroom Boxing and Andy Hearn. Then he inked the deal with HBO. He's going to be making his debut on HBO here. I think it's like in November 2nd. It's like the first week of November. He's going to be fighting on HBO for Eddie Hearn. It's going to be in New York, if memory serves me correct, if I'm hearing right. This deal kind of came completely out of nowhere. Nobody's seen this coming. I didn't see it coming. But this now begs this question in regards to Daniel Jacobs and when it comes to the almighty Al Heyman. Is Al Heyman going back to being an advisor for some of these guys, or is he going to get out of the promotion game? Because you got to wonder, because things are starting to look a little bit thin over there at PBC now. Granted, they got a hell of a card coming up here in a couple of weeks up at the Barclays Center. Like I said, Austin Trump, who will be a guest on next week's show, he's going to be a part of there against Jared Hurd. You have Lara. You have one of the Charlo brothers. You have Erickson Lubin. You've got a lot of fighters. You got 3 fights in 154 that they're showcasing. And those are all Heyman guys, all PBC guys. So, from that aspect, the talent is there. We know Deontay Wilder is now going to be facing Ortiz. So it's not like they've completely sold everything off, but you kind of got to wonder if some of the writing's on the wall. If we're going to see Al slowly but surely kind of ease his way back into a promotional, taking his back step from the promotional aspect of it and become back as being an advisor for these fighters and getting money that way. Because, maybe that money is now finally drying up from PBC. We do know Denny Garcia had tweeted out that he's going to be having a fight soon. Like I said, Adrian Broner's working with Golden Boy for him to go fight on HBO against Lucas Matisse. So it's a lot of moving parts here to kind of make you wonder a little bit what exactly is going on with a lot of the PBC fighters. Interesting times for those guys, but it's good times. It's good times here for the sport of boxing for that, because, having everybody grouped up and lumped up together, that really hasn't worked for PBC. We didn't really start seeing bigger fights until last year and a half or so. So, we'll see. But, Daniel Jacobs, now part of HBO, crazy. Another part of HBO's new dealings here this week that they announced is former junior middleweight champion Demetrius Andrade, or as everybody knows him, Boo Boo Boxing. He has inked a three-fight deal here with HBO as well. Now, this fight deal, it's still through Banner Promotions that he works with, but he's going to be exclusive now to HBO. He's got a 3-fight deal with them, and the first fight is going to be him moving up to middleweight. Now, that's going to be on October 21st against Alan Teza Fox. Never heard of him, but it's going to be a middleweight. So not only is Demetrius Andrade, fighting on HBO, but he's moving up in weight, which is kind of surprising, kind of I don't want to say weird, but just kind of odd that he's moving up to middleweight and going to pursue things there. Now, this makes more sense if you look at it from this aspect. Him inking a 3-fight deal with HBO, him moving up to middleweight, does a couple of different things. One, it gives another middleweight contender for Gennady Golovkin or Canelo, who are HBO fighters. And this 3-fight deal gives HBO an opportunity to work their way up and build Andre up as being a legitimate middleweight contender to either one of those guys. Two, so that's that aspect. Another aspect of it is they need fighters. They need fights to put on. Now, Andre is probably going to be a lot cheaper than what it was dealing with Top Rank and some of their guys. So those slots that would have went to Top Rank fighters are now going over to Demetrius Andrade. Demetrius Andrade is going to get that. So I don't know if we'll see all 3 of these fights here from him. The first one being this year and then, probably 2 next year. One would think they try to re-up another deal after that. But he's now with HBO. And as well to kind of, to kind of round off here in regards to Eddie Herman Matchroom, they're also going to have a card on November the 11th on HBO, live from Monte Carlo, which is going to feature Demetrius Bulov. Can't even enunciate his name, but the light heavyweight champion. He currently holds the one of the interim or regular or whatever belt is from the WBA, and he's now actually going to be. I think he's now been announced as being the full champion for the WBA. He's going to be making his HBO debut here on November 4th from a card from Monte Carlo. So again, it shows HBO's reach and now putting on cards and taking fights on from Matchroom and showing fights internationally. So, we really wondered, about a month and a half ago that, after Top Rank had kind of moved and had their deal with ESPN, Golden Boy having a deal with ESPN, what was going to happen with HBO and their boxing, because it seemed really thin. We thought that they would be dead come 2018, and to HBO's credit, they have came out of nowhere and have started inking some deals with some players here in boxing. And the thing is, I really think it's just the beginning for them now. They're probably going to have to get a lot more creative. You have Daniel Jacobs at middleweight. You now have Demetrius Andre at middleweight. You're going to need other guys. Now, you have the flyweights that we saw featured here a couple of weeks ago. So, those are all options. You still hope that some of these guys that Golden Boy is, hyping, Lucas Matisse can maybe headline a card. You really wonder about Jojo Diaz. So, there's guys out there for them. So, let me talk about another one of the fighters that's on there before our guest joins us. Again, if you listen to the show live, you can call in here at area code 929-477-3165. Tweet me throughout the show at BrandonP2TF and talk boxing with me. But one guy I want to talk about here is Jorge Linares. I can enunciate his name correctly. Jorge Linares won his finished championship here over the weekend against Luke Campbell over in California. Won a split decision. Not overly wowed by Jorge Linares. Never really have been, truth be told. But now it's almost a done deal if he wants to keep his belt. He's now pretty much has to face his mandatory Mikey Garcia. I'm going to be honest. Mikey Garcia is going to beat the absolute dog shit out of Jorge Linares. And it's not going to be well. It's not going to end well for him at all. The problem is with Jorge Linares, he cuts extremely easy. He bruises extremely easily. And what we've seen of Mikey Garcia here in 2017 is a guy who, after having sat on the sideline, dealing with contract negotiations with Top Rank, getting out of that deal. When I interviewed him earlier this year before his title fight against Zatelnik, I think that's how you see that guy's name that he knocked out silly, is he said he was hungry. He said he was ready to show that he's still amongst the world's best, and he wanted to make up for lost time. And we've seen him do that here this year. A fight with Jorge Linares would be great. I think it would do great in California. I think it would be a hell of a card to go live to, have that at StubHub Center. And I may have to be there. That would just be a fun atmosphere. But it'd be a fun atmosphere for Garcia fans because, quite honestly, Jorge Linares would get cut up. It'd be a bad beating he would suffer there in that fight. So I don't like his chances at all. I do hope the deal gets done because it could be entertaining while it lasts, but I just think Mikey Garcia is just way levels above better than Jorge Linares. But another guy I also want to talk about that I actually gave some praise to last week on last week's show when I was talking about the Jorge Linares card is Antonio Orozco. Now, I hyped Antonio Orozco last week and said, hey, Golden Boy was really excited about him. They plan on really doing some big things with him, and he's a nice young talent they have. And I gave him praise. And for those who listen to the show and who listen to the show consistently know, I don't give out much praise. I don't really like people. So when I give a fighter praise, that's really saying something. I salute their craft and really think highly of them. So when I do that, I don't like when things backfire on me. This one backfired on me. Antonio Orozco didn't even show up to weigh-ins last week. It was rumored that he was 7 pounds overweight. 7 pounds. So, I can't, man. I can't, Antonio Orozco. There's really been no word here from Golden Boy. No one knows what they're going to do with him next. So for Antonio Orozco's fat ass, not only missing weight, but not even showing up to the weigh-in, like, seriously, dude, you're a professional fighter, okay? If you can't make the weight, don't fight at that division. And if you knew you were that far off of your weight, at what juncture were you going to contact your promoter and say, hey, I ain't making the weight. Can we reschedule it? Can we do a catchweight bout? Something. That didn't happen from Antonio Orozco. Golden Boy was literally left out in the dark until the time of the weigh-in, which is completely unfair to them, the promoter. It's even worse to his opponent because that's extremely disrespectful to your opponent that not only do you not make weight, you don't even show up for the weigh-in. You leave everyone in the dark, and it's a shame that he actually did that. So, yeah, he was out of the fight. It's sad. It's a shame that, and I think he was actually, from what I understand, that HBO was actually going to try to make time to possibly show his fight. Yeah, so that doesn't happen. As far as what happens with him going forward, dude, I don't even know. I don't know what happens with him, what Golden Boy does with him, because this is a bad look. I think they hold him out for the rest of the year. I think that was going to be, maybe the pathway to go. Just hold him out the rest of the year and kind of figure out what you want to do with him. But it's pretty obvious that 140 is not his division. That's a division he can't make. It's just not good. And this is not the first time he's actually failed to make weight as well. He actually did it here last December, when he was going to be a part of a fight card that was also going to be televised on HBO. So, I don't see him being on HBO anytime soon. If anything, what Golden Boy should do is have him headline one of these cards that they put on ESPN. Obviously, it's not going to be for a title. Have him fight at 147 and see if that's going to be his natural weight class. Because apparently, if he's 7 pounds over the limit of, junior welterweight of the 140, 147 sounds like that's where he needs to be going forward. But, hey, what do I know? But, yeah, can't give him praise again for that. He's got to definitely earn those stripes back after a complete and utter shit show of missing weight here over the weekend. That's a shame. And, I mean, we see this – I see this more often in MMA than I do in boxing. In boxing at least, if someone, if they know they're going to be heavy, they try to renegotiate. They know days ahead, hey, I'm over. Can we make this a fight at, blank weight? They make concessions with their opponents, especially if it's an A-side fighter. They make concessions with their opponents, make it a catch weight or something like that. We've seen fighters lose belts on scales. Gervonta Davis just recently did that here back in August. So we know this is a thing that can happen, but nevertheless, it just seems so unprofessional. That's your job. That's part of your job is making weight. It's no different from anyone else who does a job. My job that I do during the daytime, I have to know certain programs and how to get into those, and I operate those. It comes with the territory. It's part of my job. Part of your job as a boxer is making weight. And Antonio Orozco, 2 times in a 12-month span, has had issue doing that, and 2 times in a 12-month span, he's had issue doing that on fights that are going to be televised on HBO. That's not good. That's not good for his brand. That's not good for his promoter, and it's just not good for boxing. So for a young guy who's, he's still relatively young. I call him young because he's younger than me. He's 29. He still has time to get it together. But, as an adage my grandmother used to always say, you either shit or get off the pot. And that's where he's at in regards to his weight thing. If 140 isn't your playing field, you need to go up to 147. If you don't think you can do that, maybe you just need to step away from the sport. I don't know. But there's my rant in regards to Antonio Orozco missing weight and disappointing me after me giving him praise on last week's show. So with that being stated, no fighter this week is getting any praise in regards to anything. I'm not trying to jinx myself or anything like that. So there's that. But joining us here in a few moments is going to be James Dominguez. He's one of the hosts of the Punchline podcast, which you can find on at punchline.live. So James will be joining us here in a few moments to talk about the show and get some of his thoughts in regards to some of the topics in regards to boxing here today. Also here a bit later in the show, talk a little bit about Parker Fury, which was, not good. And as well, Badu Jack. Badu Jack's kind of an interesting dude right now. He's a lot of heavy in the streets rumors around Badu Jack. I like Badu Jack. He's actually really the only guy, part of Mayweather Promotions, that I actually like, that I think is actually a legit, tangible, top-tier fighter. Still not so much Gervonta Davis, and like I said, with him missing weight last month, definitely not sold on him. It seems like they've given up on Jay Leon Love. We don't ever see it or really hear him on television anymore. And you kind of get past that, and it's like you really don't know much of these other guys, part of the Mayweather Promotions. But we'll talk to Badu Jack here a little bit later in the show. And as always, make sure you follow me on Twitter, BrandonP2TF, if you're not following me. Also, make sure you subscribe on iTunes to the show. Just search Punch to the Face Radio, and you'll be able to okay, that's weird. Somebody calling my phone during the show. You'll be able to throw me off there. Call me. You'll also be able to catch up on all the shows. So just search on iTunes, Punch the number 2 the Face Radio. You'll be able to catch all of our shows. We're coming close on 50 shows. We're coming back. Be coming back here to the show this past October. It's been a lot of fun. It's been a learning experience doing everything on my own now. It's been great. Shout out to Adam Abramowitz, who's came on here this year. He's been a godsend. Speaking of Adam, make sure you follow him on Twitter, SN Boxing. He will be back next week. We have a fall fight preview show that we got going. Like I said, Austin Trout is scheduled to be a part of the show. We as well got something planned here, hopefully with some people from Top Rank. I'll talk some things about what they've got going here the rest of this year and for 2018. And obviously just talk boxing and talk some of the fights we have coming up here this fall with Adam Abramowitz. So we're just hanging out here waiting a few more moments here for our guests to call in. You can call in and also be a part of the show, area code 929-477-3165. You can also tweet me throughout the show again at BrandonP2TF. And as well, you can make sure that you follow today's guests, James Dominguez and Coach Kelly Pavlik, a K Pavlik Punchline, and it's actually line with no E at the back of it. I have to ask him about that. So K Pavlik Punchline on Twitter. You can stay up on their shows as well there. But yeah, so we'll talk to him here in a few moments in regards to their show. Seeing if I can actually see who's calling me while I'm doing the show. Like, that's so rude. Like, people should know I do the show every Wednesday. Why are you calling my phone? Like, these are things people should know by now. I've been doing this now every Wednesday night since October. So it's about almost like a full calendar year of doing Punch to the Face Radio. You call me during my show. Really, who does that? Obviously, people Brandon knows, so they're not that bright. So, whatever, it is what it is. We'll yell at them here once the show is over because I'm going to have to yell at somebody for calling me and disrupting me as I'm trying to do the show. So, let's see. All right. So, so like I said, next week's show, Austin Trout will have a fall fight preview. We're also going to have a poll up of which fights you guys are looking the most forward to here for the last quarter here of 2017. A lot of fights to choose from, and like I said, hopefully we get some more things made finalized in regards to Miguel Cotto and Adrian Broner, Lucas Matisse. That's the rumor. Some people are shooting that rumor down. I'm really believing that's going to be tracked because really Miguel Cotto's already said he's going to fight one more time for the years out, and that's it. December is the makes the most logical sense. Adrian Broner, Lucas Matisse was something that was being talked about during Canelo Triple G weekend. That's why Adrian Broner was there at the fights. He had tickets comped by Golden Boy. He was there as a guest of Golden Boy. Read between the lines. So there's a couple of people in boxing and boxing media who are shooting that rumor down, saying it's not true. Where there's smoke, there's fire. I like the matchup, and like Mike said here when he called in earlier, this is Adrian Broner's last chance. If he wants to stay a viable name in boxing and be able to command, reasonable amounts of money that he likes to get, this is going to be a fight he's going to have to win. Lucas Matisse is one of those weird guys who we see sometimes and then we see other times not. He kind of just disappears on us. And this is kind of one of those cases where Lucas Matisse has kind of been gone for a while. So, I don't know. Hopefully we'll get that finalized. We can talk about that on next week's show. But this week's show, our guest is calling in. So we got James Dominguez. He is one of the hosts here of the Punchline show. James, man, welcome here to Punch to the Face Radio. How you doing this evening?
Good. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Oh, man, no problem at all, man. Again, man, you're one of the hosts here of the Punchline show. Fans can follow the show and watch all the episodes at punchline.live. The first question I have for you is, how did all this even come about? Because, podcasting is not the funnest thing in the world. So how did you and Kelly wake up to say, hey, let's do a show?
Well, me and Kelly have known each other for quite a few years. When he was training in Oxnard, I'm from Oxnard originally. So when he was training in Oxnard, we were pretty good friends, and I've known him throughout the amateur boxing scene when we both were amateurs and things like that. But we kind of kept in touch, and he moved back to Ohio. We kept in touch through mutual friends and things like that. And he said, you know what, why don't you come out to Ohio and see how it is out here, make a change. I said, you know what, it's a good idea. So I was retired from the military and everything, and a job wasn't really, something I needed to have at the time. So I came out, and, me and Kelly like to make memes, funny memes, and just play jokes constantly on the Facebook and on the radio. And we started hearing, why don't you guys make a show? Why don't you guys do a show together? That would be funny. And one day I went to Kelly and said, you know what, we ought to make a podcast. And he said, no, because, Kelly is he's pretty introverted for the most part. He doesn't get out there very often. And then about a week later, he came back, about that radio show, we should try it. So, true story, we went to Best Buy and bought what we thought we needed, and it kind of took off from there. And we found out we were way over our heads on this whole thing.
But that's sometimes the best part. You learn a lot.
Yeah, we were way over it. It was nothing like we thought. We ended up going through about $15,000 of 3 producers. So yeah, we kind of bit off all we could chew, but I think we're getting to a point now where we're kind of filling into that groove and kind of getting used to each other. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Now, now the show's been going on here for some time, and it's actually being really well received. How have you gotten used to that, and people kind of reaching out to you guys and want to be a part of the show, because it can come at you fast.
Yeah. For me, I'm not used to it. I think Kelly is more used to limelight than I am. You know what I mean? And he adapts a little easier to it. For me, it comes too fast, and I take to heart even the negative things, which I should, because as long negative or positive, they're still watching. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So, exactly. And, Ellie Sekpak, who we're pretty good friends with, and he helps us out. We go to shows, things like that. He told us that. He said, negative, positive, they're still watching the show. But and I think that's the part of the thing. I think we wanted to make the show something we could relatable to everybody. So many of these shows out here with professional boxers on their world champions, they're not accessible to fans. And I think we wanted to make that different, where a fan can call in, or he could ask any question he wants and me answer time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. That's what helps makes these shows fun, where you actually have people who are willing to engage and be a part of it, And I know you probably have dealt with this as well. So often you'll talk to fighters and they're just like stiff as a board. It's the worst thing in the world. Like, you don't want that on your show.
Yeah. Well, we had the same problem at first. We did. We were trying to find ourselves, but when we started being ourselves, what we wanted to do was kind of base when me and Kelly would hang out, joke around and do stupid things. I said, why don't we just do the same thing when we're on the air? You know, why don't we wear buffalo masks or bird masks?
Yes.
You know, on the air, why not? Because we would do that hanging out. You know, we'd go through a drive-through wearing buffalo helmets and lion helmets. You know, why not? And so we've kind of took that. Like yesterday, we dressed like 1980s rappers with the teeth and the gold chains and everything, you know, and the big rapper glasses. We did that yesterday, did the whole show that way.
And that's what makes the show fun. And, again, fans can watch the show on get all the episodes at punchline.live. You can find all the information in regards to the shows that James and Kelly put on. Now, I got to say, I do like the outfits. I like that you guys keep it fun, but you also have great perspectives from boxing. You trained in boxing,
Yeah.
You amateur box. Kelly was a professional and a champion. We know about what Kelly's background is and all that, but it gives two different angles of boxing, which makes the shows good. And like I said, you guys keep it fun and keep it light, which is what I enjoy about the program.
Yes. Thank you. I appreciate it. And, you know, from our peers, that means the most. You know what I mean? And from fans and other people you're going to get, they love the show or whatever, but it means the most when it comes from our peers because that's the people we look to, like you and some of the other shows we look to because you guys are our peers, and that's really important what you guys think as well.
Well, James, I got to get your perspective here on some things in boxing. I know you guys had talked about some of these on your show, but we had a very touching tribute, which, by the way, was so not touching, was kind of borderline disrespectful to Andre Ward at the beginning of the show. With him suddenly retiring, how much did that throw you for a loop? And do you think of him being, we got a lot of fighters retiring here this year. Is he going to be the guy who's going to be the first ballot Hall of Famer, maybe above a Miguel Cotto? Because we know Floyd's going to be one of them. But, what do you think about his retirement happening, and where does that leave him in the lineage of where's his spot in the sport?
Well, first of all, Andre Ward is the pound-for-pound guy up until the day he retired. I always felt he was the best fighter out there now. The guy hasn't been beat since he was 12 years old. And it did throw me for a loop. I expected Andre Ward to stick around, but, Andre Ward's had a long career, 17 years. Even if you take the inactivity, he still had a 13 or 14-year career, which is nothing to sneeze at. I'm sure some injuries and management issues and promotion issues have slowed him down a little bit. But I really thought he had a good few years left in the sport.
So, Sergey Kovalev saying he retired to duck facing him a third time. No truth to that.
No truth whatsoever. Let me tell you a little story. I was in camp with Kovalev for Kovalev Ward 1. I'm from Oxnard, and I was in Robert Garcia's gym when he showed up the first day of camp. And the day Kovalev walked in, I'll say it because, hey, that's what I'll do. I'll be honest. He walked in about 228 pounds the day he walked in to the gym. He looked basically, not like a fighter when he walked in there. And so I was like real, and he spent that camp losing weight and training.
Wow. That's insight right there. That explains a lot.
Yeah, and it's just little things. Kovalev is very, and my younger brother is actually Lomachenko's assistant strength and conditioning coach. So a lot of the things that goes on in camp we know about. We knew what Kovalev came in, what he would be doing, and we know how hard he is to work with as a fighter. He's very hard to work with. He would come in and basically, like the day All Access from Showtime came in, he was putting a bunch of communist pictures and things all over the wall inside the Robert's gym, and Robert Garcia was like, what the hell are they doing? Oh my God, you just can't do that. You can't put marks landing all over your walls in the gym and have All Access come in, So we were a little taken aback, and we kind of knew his personal habits, what was going on. We went out to his SUV to get some equipment that he asked for. He had a gallon of vodka in the front seat. I was like, wow, yeah, this training camp's going to be awesome. This is going to be an amazing training camp. And we talked about it on the show because we thought it was funny, you know what I mean? But he's not the easiest guy to work for. And I kind of expected him to implode at a certain point just because of his training habits.
And we're seeing it now because he's on a search for a trainer, and I don't envy anyone who gets that job at all.
Well, From what I'm hearing, I'm hearing that Rudy Hernandez or Joel Diaz right now is kind of on the radar for that, and which is a great pick because Igis Klimas, who is Kovalev's manager, is picking a disciplinarian type trainer. And if you know Rudy Hernandez, that's Janelle Hernandez's older brother. He works in the UFC. He worked with Chocolatito, and he worked with Carlos Cuadras. And so he's worked with some of the best fighters in the world. And this guy is a complete disciplinarian, and he's by the book, and he's a professional who won't put up with crap. And we all know how Joel Diaz is. His reputation precedes him. So I think that's what they're looking for, is more of a disciplinarian type trainer that he's going to be forced to pay and be forced to listen to, or he can leave. You know.
Well, that's interesting. We'd be interested to see how that plays out because he's going to have to get in camp here soon. He has a fight here come on November. So we're literally 2 months out from his next fight. So training camp will be starting soon. So he's got to get that together.
Well, you know, either he can get it together, or he can sink, or he can swim or sink. It's up to him at this point. You know, and I really don't know how bad he wants it anymore. The guy has all the ability. He's strong, and he's relentless, but he just doesn't go the extra mile that Ward did.
And that's a shame because right now, with Ward exiting the division really is wide open. With no disrespect to Adonis Stevenson, but it's Adonis Stevenson, for Christ's sakes. We really don't know how great he is because he's fought a lot of C and B- level fighters. So, you know, Kovalev could go back and could gain a lot of his luster back that he lost upon these two Andre Ward fights if he just put it together mentally.
He could. He really could. But, you know, there's some great light heavyweights coming up out of from that Russian stable. Again, there's one of them coming up. I think he an Olympian. I wish I knew his name offhand. He was an Olympic bronze medalist. They call him the Nail. This kid's amazing. We watched him on the Lomachenko undercard in D.C. First round knockout. He just picked up a fourth round knockout a couple weeks ago. That kid's a light heavyweight, and he's like 13-0. I want to watch him again. But there's these guys that are coming up. You know, they're making noise. And then you have what? And then you have the Mexican kid Ramirez that fought the other night. I mean, this kid's good too.
Yeah, we also have Badu Jack now, who's was a titleist before dropping his belt here this week, who's also still in the mix. So, I mean, it'll be interesting to see. Yeah. There's a lot of guys there. Now, I do want to ask you an Oxnard question because this guy's one of my favorite guys and a guest here on the show, Mikey Garcia. Mikey Garcia told me earlier this year when he was a guest on the show that you know, he was going to make up for a lot of lost time in 2017. And by God, he has done that. He had a crushing knockout win here earlier this year. He really a nice, I don't want to say dominant performance against Adrian Broner, but he definitely showed that there's a level in boxing and he's a level above. You know, now it sounds like him and Jorge Linares, that could be a collision course. Yeah. I said earlier on the show that Linares stands no chance. How bad of a beating will Mikey give to Linares? That just sounds like that would just be cool for Linares to take that fight.
Linares is a smaller guy. He's 135, but Mikey's a big 135. You know what I mean? Mikey's more of a 140 type guy, which he showed against Broner. He's a big junior welterweight. But the thing was, Linares' chin will let him down, like it did before with when he got his nose split open against DeMarco. And Mikey is twice the puncher DeMarco is, obviously, and twice the technician. The thing with Mikey is he's patient, and he'll walk you down. You're not looking at a second or third round knockout with Mikey because Mikey's not that way. Mikey's a slow starter. But by the time that fifth round comes around, it's going to be curtains.
Yeah, Mikey's just one of those guys that I just think his skill set, and the thing is, I don't think we've seen all of his skill set. And that should really scare a lot of people because he's still getting so much better and so much polish. Yeah. That time away from the ring, it didn't hurt him. Like guys we've seen take time away for injuries or due to contract negotiations, Mikey didn't skip a beat. Yes. He came back even better.
Well, a lot of people don't know that Mikey only stayed about 8 or 9 pounds above his fighting weight the whole time. And he stayed in the gym. Even though he wasn't actively fighting, he was working with Brandon all the time. He came in and worked with Maidana, getting him ready for the Floyd fights. He was working with the Mexican Russian, Yevgeny Gradovich, he was in there all the time in the gym working with these guys. And, there's been some secret sparring with him and Loma, Lomachenko that good luck finding on tape. But he's always working with these guys, And the thing about Mikey, there's a great story about him if you have time. He was 13 or 14 years old over in Oxnard. We were talking about Rudy. They were working at a gym in Maywood. Big time gym in Maywood. Janero Hernandez, the Ruelas brothers, all of them used to train over there. Carlos Fernandez. Anyway, Rudy's watching everybody train, and Robert's in there, the big G, and Edwin Valero's in there in the gym at the time. Matisse's in the gym. Brandon Rios. You get the idea. Everybody's training. And Rudy walks up to Robert and goes, "You know who the best fighter in the gym is?" And Robert said, "Who?" He goes, "It's that kid, right?" He said, "It's Mikey." It was Mikey. He said, "Mikey's only 14 years old." He said, "But watch him." He said he pays attention to everything that goes on. And he said, everything you tell him to do, he does it. He said he's going to be a star. He's the best fighter in this gym. And sure enough, the prophecy was right. He was the best fighter in that gym.
And he's doing it here in amongst the best fighters in the world right now as a professional. Like I said, Mikey's one of my favorite guys to watch, man. It's just I'm so glad that he's got an opportunity now that, all that contract sits behind him. And he's fighting freely. He's fighting more frequently. I'm happy for him. And like I said, when he was a guest on the show, he said he was going to make a statement this year.
And it's the truth. And, with Mikey, it's what you see with him is what you get. There's no different guy. You see this guy on the street 6 months from now, he's going to remember your name. You know what I mean? He's just one of those people. We've known Mikey a lot of years since he was a kid, and the family and the Garcias, they're great people, and they're that type of family. You know what I mean? And
absolutely.
We were at the Broner fight. Me and Kelly, we did media for the Broner Garcia fight, and we went and saw. We actually went to Mikey's hotel room the day of the fight or the night before. And when we saw Broner looked terrible. He looked drawn in and weak. We saw Mikey, and Mikey had the color in him, and he was bouncing around a little bit, and he was happy, and he was eating what he wanted. I said, you know what? I told Kelly, Broner's going to have his work cut out for him. Because we were kind of on the fence. We didn't know what Broner was going to show up that night. And even though I've known Mikey a lot of years, I don't want to ever be impartial. Do you know what I mean? To where I say, well, Mikey's going to beat everybody, because we all know that's not a fact. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, I mean, like when they were talking about Crawford and Mikey, I said, Mikey needs to slow down a little bit. You know what I mean? Mikey fighting Cotto, Mikey might want to slow down a little bit.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, they're just, but with that particular fight, we go, I think Mikey's going to have an easier time than we're thinking.
I mean, that's what just greatness looks like, and that right now is Mikey Garcia, and I think here in 2018, he's going to be right there amongst the top fighters pound for pound in the world, especially as we have more guys retiring and leaving that list. He's going to be in that mention amongst those top three, I say, by this time here next year. Again, our guest is James Dominguez. He's one of the hosts of the Punchline show. Again, go to punchline.live to catch all the episodes. Anything you want to plug besides the show, James, while we got you on?
No, you know what? No, I like to keep it simple. We don't have much going for us but the show, you know what I mean? I think all that we are adding something different to the show, which I'm kind of excited about. I think once a month we're going to do, it's called Technique Tuesday, and our show is made a live format now, video. And Kelly is going to be in the ring, and even me, we're going to be doing something, and Kelly's going to be showing people real-life technique. If fans have a question to Kelly, hey, Kelly, how do you move somebody into a right hand from a left hook? Kelly's going to actually show you how to do that. What makes Canelo's defense so good? Kelly or I are going to show you what makes him so effective. And so it's going to be more for the advanced fan. You know what I mean? We're not going to be throwing basic ones and twos, but we're gonna kind of explain things. So if you're looking to learn a little more, or you're looking to understand what certain fighters do, I mean, it's going to be something to watch.
That is pure genius, because you have a legitimate fighter and a guy who fought tons of amateur fights doing live tech. Oh, that's a great idea. I want to steal that.
Yeah, and I mean, and we're gonna do it. We're gonna do it once a month. I mean, we don't want to base our whole show off that but you know what? I don't want to get beat up that bad, because Kelly's actually gonna make contact. You know what I mean? It's not gonna be the Teddy Atlas bang bang pow thing he does. he's actually going to make contact, you know. So I don't know if I can take that beating every week. You know what I mean? So I'm not in fighting shape exactly.
Neither am I, my brother, so I understand. Neither am I. Oh, man, that's going to be great. So, yeah, we got to make sure the fans definitely know where they can catch us. So, again, punchline.live, and as well on Twitter they can follow
or
us.
You can catch it on Facebook, too, Punchline, and you subscribe, and the live show it'll remind you when the live show's on, and that's when you'll be able to see the actual boxing going on. And we're actually going to Kelly actually made state for powerlifting. He actually made the state final. He's up for a world championship of powerlifting now.
Yeah, I'd heard he was doing powerlifting now, and I'm like, I didn't really read much into it, but wow.
He's competing for he's competing for a curling. I don't think the bench he has a chance in, but I think he's going to go for the curling record for his weight in Ohio, and I think that's Erie, Pennsylvania in 2 weeks. I think we're going to cover the show.
That's dope.
So I mean,
that's dope.
You know, I'm really happy because, you know, for years he took a lot of negative press about alcohol and things like that. You know, I'm happy to report he hasn't had a drink in 3 years. You know, so I mean, you
got to have strong
happy.
people around you. Yeah, you got to have good people around you and a strong support system for that. So you know, it's a battle.
That's one thing he has.
It's a disease, so he's battling. Yeah.
You
it's
know,
a disease he's battling, so he's doing a great job.
He has a great family and a great spouse. He has that back, you know, his father, his spouse. He has those people around him that are keeping him, going, and I'm proud of him. I can't say enough about him.
Well, definitely. Well, shout out to Kelly Pavlik for not only making, the state there in his powerlifting, but also his battle against with alcohol addiction and sobriety. So shout out to Kelly Pavlik for that, and shout out to you, James, for coming on the show, doing the show. We know you're not used to the limelight, but we're going to get you used to it. You're more than welcome to come back on the show anytime, and best of luck here with the Punchline show, because I like it because you guys don't take yourself too serious, and that's what makes the show great, and that's what makes any show great. When you don't take yourself too serious, it flows so naturally, and you guys do a great job of that.
Thank you, and I would appreciate it, and I would like you to come on our show now so I can put you in the same boat.
Well,
that would be great.
Man. Absolutely, man. I would love to do it, man. But I want to thank you for taking our time and being a guest here on Punch the Face Radio. And again, man, folks, go to Punchline, Punchline.live, and as well subscribe on YouTube so they can get the live updates when you guys are going live. And we'll see you guys here next week for next week's show.
I appreciate it, and thank you for everything. Thank you for your time.
All right, no problem, James. You take it easy.
You too. Have a great one, buddy.
All right, thank you. And again, you can also follow them on Twitter at Pavlik Punchline. That's with no E online. And again, punchline.live in regards to being able to watch the shows. And again, YouTube. Just go YouTube and just type in Kelly Pavlik Punchline. It'll actually pull it up until you can subscribe there. So shout out to James Dominguez, one of the hosts there of the show. Love his energy. Like I said, if you haven't watched the show, they really don't take themselves too seriously, and that's what makes a good show about boxing great, because they're just having fun with it. That's why I came back and did Punch the Face Radio, to have fun with it. When you're having fun with what you do, it makes things so much easier. It makes things so much livelier. That's why we have a great time here on Punch the Face Radio. We like having guests like that who share that energy. So shout out to James Dominguez, Kelly Pavlik, the whole squad over there at the Punchline podcast. So, to close out the show here, last week we had other boxing that went on. We had boxing down, was it in New Zealand or Australia? I get them confused. They're kind of one and the same to me. We had Parker versus Fury. So Hughie Fury, Joseph Parker, for Parker's championship. I forget what alphabet belt he has. It was a horrible fight. So let me just be clear when I say this in regards to this. With Vladimir Klitschko retiring, with Deontay Wilder having Ortiz to deal with here, this about a month and a half, Anthony Joshua does have Pulev to fight here, but let's be clear. Joseph Parker and Hughie Fury pose no threat to either one of those guys. That was a god-awful fight, very boring. Neither one showed much, if anything. For Parker, The guy's really want to kind of break out and kind of separate himself from the pack since he does own one of the alphabet belts in the heavyweight division. He's not doing himself any credit and any favors. Obviously, I can see, Anthony Joshua, if he gets through with Puev, jumping on the fight with Parker because that would be such easy money for him. Same way with Deontay Wilder if he can get past Luis Ortiz here this year. It would be easy money for him. Joseph Parker showed no dimensions from what I saw of that fight that makes me say this guy can be the leader of the pack, the top dog in the heavyweight division. I didn't see it. I watch a lot of bad boxing, and that was bad boxing. Shout out to Tyson Fury, who was there, who's looking very fat and happy. I wish he could get himself together, both mentally and physically, and come back to the ring because boxing does miss him. But, yeah. Hughie Fury, Joseph Parker, they do nothing for me in the heavyweight division right now. Nothing whatsoever. Another thing, like I said, I mentioned this earlier here. We got Badu Jack. Badu Jack is kind of an interesting character. Now, he won a version of the WBA title here on the undercard of Mayweather's last fight in August, when he pretty much beat up and took to town a game but completely outgunned Nathan Cleverly. So he won that WBA title here in the light heavyweight division. That was his first fight after moving up in weight. So, it was kind of looked upon, is he going to do the unification bout with Dmitry Bulov, or however you enunciate his name, who holds another portion there of the WBA title. That was the fight that sort of made sense. They could, unify and have just one complete champion there for the WBA. But this week, Badu Jack drops his title. Now, a lot of people are already saying, he's ducking Dimitri, and I don't know if that's the case. I don't think that's the case because I look at a guy like Badu Jack, and he suffered a knockout loss once in his career. But to his credit, he's gotten back up, and he's fought. And Badu Jack's resume is actually not bad either. The guys fought James DeGale, Nathan Cleverly. He's got other names on his resume when he fought at 168. So, he's fought fighters and has fought fighters well. I don't think he's ducking anyone here. So, with him dropping his belt, the question is what's next for him. Now, his people are pretty much saying that there's a rumor floating around that it's going to be him versus Adonis Stevenson for Adonis Stevenson WBC championship. And obviously, if Jack held on to his WBA title, he was going to be able to do that. But there's a new wrinkle in that here today, and that's in the form of one Edner Alvarez. Now, Alvarez won his mandatory bout here. When did he win that? That seemed like that was earlier this year or maybe even last year on an Adonis Stevenson undercard. So he's on a part of an undercard fight there, and he was warning, he won that fight. He won the being the mandatory for Adonis Stevenson's belt, and people are trying to get him to take step-aside money, and he said no. Now, it looks like a fight is now in the works between Alvarez and Adonis Stevenson for December in Quebec City, and that is per Yvonne Michael, who's the promoter of Adonis Stevenson and Alvarez. If that obviously happens in Quebec, that's where, Montreal is where both these guys fight out of, have fan bases there. So I could see that happening. But you kind of now got to wonder what exactly is going to happen now with Badu Jack. Now, if there's bigger things ahead for him, what are these bigger things? Because you've now dropped your championship that you had, and Andre Ward's retired. What are the big bouts are out there for you? Sergey Kovalev has a fight here in November. Adonis Stevenson looks like he's going to have a fight here with Alvarez here before the year is out. what other fights are out there for Badou Jack for him to drop his championship that he just won? You know, they said that was the plan the whole time along when they signed the fight to fight Nathan Cleverly. But it just really makes you wonder what exactly direction are they going. Now, there are guys out there like Sullivan Barrera. There are guys like Artur Beterbiev. Beterbiev looks like his fight that he's going to have here on November 11th. It actually may end up being for one of the belts that Andre Ward is vacating since he's retiring. There's a guy like Joe Smith Jr. who's going to be coming off of a broke jaw, more than likely here sometime here early part of next year. But, you know, dropping your championship and not having a sound game plan, kind of questionable. We've seen some weird things happen from the Mayweather camp. This is one of those things, kind of weird, kind of like, what are you doing? So I hope for his sake that he didn't drop the belt just to avoid Dmitry Bolev, or how do you enunciate his name? Bad with these international names. You should know that by now, listening to the show. I hope that's not the case, but we just never know in regards to boxing nowadays. So Badou Jack has now dropped his championship. It's a weird world we live in here in regards to the championships and the fighters dropping belts anymore. It's just a strange thing. In regards to this week's action, I said I wasn't going to praise any fighters. We really don't have a ton to choose from. There is a card on BN Sports that's going to be promoted by Roy Jones Jr. That's going to be his first fight promotion for Roy Jones Jr. Boxing on BN Sports. That happens here on the 29th, so that's here on Friday. Otherwise than that, you know, ESPN does have a Golden Boy card. We have Spike O'Sullivan versus Nick Quigley. That'll be your main event here on Saturday. Another one of the World Boxing Super Series fights, Maurice Bradis against Mike Perez. Mike Perez is making his cruiserweight debut in this fight. For those who haven't seen Mike Perez, the former heavyweight who's really looked like a chunky baby fighting at heavyweight, he is completely ripped and cut to shreds as a cruiserweight. He was always a skilled guy there at the heavyweight division. Kind of seemed a little bit too short for the division. Cruiserweight may be the perfect home for him. Big ups to him for getting in shape and cutting off that weight to fight at cruiserweight. So he's going to be making his cruiserweight really debut there. Part of that is for Bradis' WBC cruiserweight title. So not only could Perez win the fight and move on to the tournament, he could pick up a belt along the way. So that happens here on Saturday. That's something we're looking forward to. Let's see what else we got here. That's really all we got here for the week in regards to cards. We got some fights here next week. Devin Alexander making his return to the ring. That's next Tuesday. Oddly enough, he fights on Tuesday. His brother fights on Thursday that week for a main event. So, a few fights here and there, but nothing really major right now going on. But every week we'll have one of those World Boxing Super Series fights going on. So this week, Mike Perez, one of those guys that a lot of people are looking upon as being one of the favorites in the tournament, he will make his debut there. On one other kind of interesting note, O'Hara Davies is going to be making his return back after suffering a brutal knockout loss here earlier this year. He was a big shit talker over from the UK, so if you haven't seen him get knocked out, just Google him and find that last fight. He suffered an L, but he's making his return back from that L here this weekend over there in England. So, interesting guy. But that's all the show we got for this week. Shout out to our guest here this week, James Dominguez of the Punchline Show. Again, make sure you go to punchline.live and subscribe there through their YouTube channel to watch the shows live. Shout out to Mike Money for calling in as well. Like I said, man, next week, Adam Abramowitz will be making his triumphant return back to the show. We love Adam. We love what he brings here to the show. But we're also going to bring some guests along as well. We have scheduled Austin Trout as well. We're working on some surprise guests possibly here from Top Rank being a part of the show to talk about what they're doing here this fall. And obviously, Austin Charles has a big fight here on October 14th against Jared Hurd, a part of that super mega 3-fight junior middleweight championship card that'll be on Showtime. So definitely talk to him about that and what's going on in his career. So we'll have that all on next week's show. Again, I'll drop it again. Make sure you follow me on Twitter, Brandon P2TF, as well. Follow my co-host Adam Abramowitz at SN Boxing, and make sure you go show some love to his page at SaturdayBoxing.com. And if you're on Facebook, follow the group SN Boxing. Is the group here on Facebook. We bring a lot of knowledge and quality hate to the world of boxing, so we appreciate everybody who's a part of that. With that being stated, as I say every week, and I can't stress this enough, in the world we live in right now, I want everyone to stay safe, stay blessed, love one another, because that's the only way we're going to get through any of this. And again, I cannot stress that part enough. Love one another, people. Until next Wednesday, I am Brandon Stubbs, and I am out.